Sometimes we get so scared to fail. It's like, no, just fail. Just fail. You're not going to fail every time. You know, you fail that first time, the business didn't work, start another one. Fail again, start another one. And it's like, if you're not dead, you got a shot. You know.
Yes. Say that.
Yeah.
It's important, especially in our industry, people who are aspiring to be in our industry. It's like people want everything to be perfect. They want the steps laid out. They want the mentor. They want to know how to do it. They want a straight path, and it's the steps and the crooked steps that are the ones that, you know, you've got to take a step to high and be uncomfortable.
There's a little piece I have, hold on, I wanted to read this about that. Where is it? The 113. About that idea. This is in the chapter called Ignorance. I love you too! Thank you, baby. Yes. Security. Oh, that's funny. I like that. Oh, that was a good one. That was good. We didn't plan that. Alright, so I wanted to read this. Okay. We punish ourselves for not knowing. We always complain about what we could or should have done and how much of a mistake it was that we did that thing, that unforgivable thing. We beat ourselves up for being so stupid and regretting our choices and lamenting the horrible decisions we made. But here's the reality. That's what life is. Life is the journey from not knowing to knowing, from not understanding to understanding, from confusion to clarity. By universal design, you are born into a perplexing situation, bewildered, and you have one job as a human being: figure this shit out. You know, and it's like, you know, we get so upset that we don't know and what we should know. That's how it is. The game is learning. And, you know, unfortunately, you have to learn with your ass. You know, you're learning like taking shots, you know, but that's what the game is. Overcoming your ignorance is the game, right? And you overcome it by just trying things. And you get into it and you learn how to swim. You get thrown in and you got to learn how to swim. And sometimes we want to know how to swim before we jump in the water, and it doesn't work like that, you know. And, you know, I heard another great quote. I don't know if it's either, so. But it said, life is like school with one major difference. In school, you get the lesson, and then you get the test. But in life, you get the test, and then you have to extract the lesson. Yeah.
Amen to that. Amen to that. One of the biggest lessons, and just I think a beautiful through line in the book, is the idea of, you talk so beautifully about your father and then your journey to fatherhood. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just spectacular. I woke up this morning and I was just meditating on the fact that I was going to speak with you tonight, which is a great honor, so thank you for having me. And that on this night, 29 years ago, is a big part of this book. Yeah. On this day, 29 years ago, your first son, Trey, was born.
Yes.
This night. Happy birthday, Trey.
Happy Trey. Where's Trey? There's my son right there. Yeah. That's my firstborn. T-Ball.
Stand up, Trey.
Stand up, Trey. Stand up, Trey. It's his birthday. So, all right, hold on. So Trey, 29 years ago, hey, where's my man Marcus? Marcus, pop one out here for a second. Hold up. Trey was born
Where's Cherie? Cherie, you sitting with Trey too. That's Trey's mommy. That's my baby mama, that's Cherie. So I wanted to be a father my whole life. From the time I was 5 years old, you know, I knew I wanted to be a family. I knew I wanted to have kids. I knew, you know, partially because of my childhood, I wanted a chance to like do it better. I wanted a chance to do it right, you know. And I remember that first night when Trey was born. From the first time the doctor placed you in my arms, I knew I'd meet death before I let you meet harm. Although questions arose in my mind, would I be man enough against wrong, choose right, and be standing up from the hospital that first night? Took an hour just to get the car seated right. People driving all fast got me kinda upset. Got you home safe, placed you in your bassinet. That night I don't think one wink I slept as I slipped out my bed to your crib I crept. Touch your head gently, felt my heart melt, cause I knew I loved you more than life itself. Then to my knees, and I begged the Lord, please let me be a good daddy. All he needs, love, knowledge, discipline too. I pledge my life to you. This is the public depiction of Trey's birth and my introduction to fatherhood. But that first night was far more emotionally tumultuous than my poetic verse suggests. Cherie was asleep, and we had a tiny bassinet for Trey in an adjacent bedroom. I couldn't stop looking at him. I was terrified. I had wanted this my whole life, and here I was with my son, my wife, my family, my turn. My body was quaking, overwhelmed with the immensity of the responsibility to this tiny human life. I fell to my knees, sobbing uncontrollably, praying to God, please help me do it right. Please help me be a good daddy. My mind swerved and careened like a drone through my childhood. I had talked so much shit about Daddy-O. Now here I was. Would I be smart enough to orchestrate the building of a wall for my son? Would I be able to put food on the table and keep the lights on without fail? Would I be strong enough to fend off someone who came to kill him? It's 3 a.m. I'm on my knees. I'm just a little boy. I never wanted my daddy so bad in my life. And then something clicked, deep in a place where nothing had ever clicked before. A decision, an ironclad conviction. I wiped my tears, I stood up, I gently touched Trey's head, and I knew there were only two possibilities. One, I was gonna be the best father this planet had ever seen, or two, I was gonna be dead. Give it up. Marcus, we're looking out, we're looking out.
Can I just ask you one question? 29 years ago, would you ever think that you would be speaking to your son at the Dolby Theater in front of all these people about that very story? This happened happened 29 years ago today.
Yes. No,
2 days.
it was such a, Cherie and I were talking about it earlier. It was such a scary time for me also, because I had just gotten back from being broke, right? So that wasn't far off, right? And I was like, oh no, now I brought someone else into it, and it was a really difficult time for me. Trey, his birth was an emergency, cesarean, and he had, when they put the babies in the NICU, and he had a IV in his head. It was like, it was a shocking introduction, to parenthood for me in that way. And, it was a very difficult time, when Cherie and I decided to divorce. As a child, when my parents broke up, Daddy-O had hit my mom for the last time when I was 13. And when my mom left, again, my mind processed it as my fault, and that was the only time in my life that I had ever considered suicide. So, Cherie and I getting divorced, I felt like I was continuing the cycle with my son, and it was a very difficult, emotional time. And I just want to commend Cherie, it's so critical in those situations. Especially as much as I was working and everything I was doing is so critical that, mom has to hold it down in that way. And, Cherie, you've held it down for 29 years, and I got you forever.
Because I want to get into some of the career stuff, but I do want to ask about this link between your father, Daddy-O, you becoming a father, Trey, Jaden, Willow, Jada.
Yeah.
The idea that you have all this baggage from your childhood, and you decide, I'm not going to take that into my you being a father, your fatherhood. And the decision that you made and how you were able to divest yourself from the worst habits of your father.
Yeah.
Did you and Jada make a decision about how you wanted to raise the kids, or was it organic? Because let me just say, your kids feel very free.
Yeah.
They're the freest looking kids. It's remarkable. It's stunning. It's uncomfortable for some people because it's like, wow, these kids, how dare they be so free in their life? I'm offended. People are offended by that same thing you say. I can't be that, so I don't want you to be that, right? But how did you get to that? Was it deliberate or was it organic?
So I met Jada and we fell in love and started a family, and it was really important to Jada, Cherie, and I to make sure that we were one unit, right? So, we were already on the edges of what people would call traditional, right? And we were working very hard to create one family, so it demanded that we be open to new ideas. And we are studiers, like we're readers, and we, try to figure the things out. I remember one of the times, so we had a psychologist that we were working with that was helping us kind of have the blended family. So Jada got pregnant, and the psychologist said in order for Trey to feel ownership, we should let Trey be a part of the naming of the baby. And Trey was like 6 or something like that, right? So they said they want Trey to be a part of the naming of the new baby, and then that way he'll have ownership. So, you know, we come home and say, oh, that's exciting, right? Yeah. And Trey, he had just gotten a Super Nintendo, and he was like, he was playing the Mario Kart, right? And he loved the Super Mario, right? So I got this, you know, I'm like, you know, I'm gonna be the greatest father. I got this parenting, you know, so he's gonna be a part of the naming of his new brother. And Trey's sitting there and he's playing this game. It's like, Trey, listen, I got an idea, man. Trey, put the game down for a second. Okay, hold on 1 second, Dad. It's like, Trey, I want you to, you know, we decided we want you to be a part of naming your new little brother. We want you to come up with a name. Okay. Right, so I'm losing all my, you know, all my parenting points. And I'm like, Trey, please, come on, just come up with a name. And he says, Luigi. And I look at Jada, and she's like, I said, well, Trey, do you have any other name, you know, you want to pick for your brother? No, it's my favorite name, Luigi. I was like, well, Trey, we wanna. So now he's paying attention. He pauses the game. You said I can name my little brother. I was like, well, yeah, Trey. He was like, no, that's the name I want. And Jada was like, okay, it's okay. So we go in the other room, and I'm pissed. And Jada's on the phone trying to call the psychologist. I was like, I'm gonna choke the hell out of this lady. It was like, have you ever seen a nigga named Luigi? Like, we're going to move to Palermo. Right, so she calls the psychologist. The psychologist is like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Okay, here's what you need to do. If it's his favorite name, go out and get a puppy, okay? Give him the puppy, and if it's his favorite name, he's not gonna wanna wait for his brother to get born. He's gonna wanna name the puppy, and then you'll have him pick a new name. I was like, so we go out, we get this lobster asa, the little puppy, and we bring Trey. Surprise! He's like, oh, so he's playing with the puppy. Trey, you gotta come up with a name for your puppy. Luigi! We're like, yes! And I was like, oh, but Trey, you can't, you know, if you name the puppy Luigi, you're not gonna be able to name your brother Luigi. He was like, no, I wanna name the puppy Luigi. And it was like, you have another name for your brother then? And he said, Christopher. And we're like, yes, Christopher. Christopher is perfect. And then, so now Jaden's name, I picked Jaden, Trey picked Christopher, Jada picked Sire, so Jaden's name is Jaden Christopher Sire Smith.
Oh,
that's not
good. It was close though.
Yeah, it was real
close.
Yeah. But all my friends called Jaden Luigi till he was like 13.
So this kind of deliberate idea of, you know, thinking through all of your actions as it relates to the children was from the beginning and continued through.
You know, it was really important to us. I grew up in a military household where you followed orders, but at the same time, at work, Daddy-O gave us real agency at work. We were working with power tools and all of that kind of stuff really, really young, so there was a certain amount of agency. And, you know, Jada and I decided really early that we wanted our kids to have their lives to go and bump around as young as possible. You know, it was experimental. It was very, very experimental, but there were things from our childhood that we wanted to correct, and we wanted our children to not feel like they had to follow our orders. We wanted them to feel like they had to find their way. We wanted them to own their education as soon as possible. We didn't want to have to be pushing and forcing and pounding them. We wanted them to, what do you like, what do you want to do, and we're going to support you in that, you know. So, you know, it is making, you know, raising kids is not science. It is an art form, and you know, we made tons of mistakes, and our experience has been that when kids feel loved, if you can just get them to feel loved, then all of the other things will tend to work themselves out. It's like, you know, even, you know, the concept for me that got transformed, you know, I always say that, you know, Trey got the 24-year-old, you know, dumb version of my parenting, and Jaden got a slight upgrade, and Willow got really the most educated version of my parenting. But there was a real transformation in my concept around parenting from demanding that my kids be what I need them to be in order to satiate and gratify my parent ego of how I wanted to look and how I wanted to be in the world. And there was a transition to what I call gardener flower parenting, where the seed is born as a thing. God already made it a thing. It's programmed to grow into something. It's either it's the seed of an apple tree, or it's an oak tree, or it's a rose. It already is the thing. And the gardener helps the seed to become what it naturally already is, and you nurture it, and you water it, and you help it to become what it is, more than demanding that it be what you need it to be to feel good about yourself.
Yeah. Wow. That's a beautiful way to think about it. So you've got these seeds, and you're watering them, and you're tending to them. And you know, that's a lot of work if that's all you were doing. But most parents have a job. Your job just happened to be being the biggest star in the world. And the process to becoming that is in this book, and it's fascinating for all the people in our industry, people who aspire to be in our industry, or whatever you do. It's a fascinating tale of becoming the Will Smith that's known around the world. Can we talk about Big Willie Weekend?
Big Willie Weekend, yeah.
We talk about, does anyone remember July 4th weekend? Right? Where it's is it 800 million?
Yeah, it was 8 consecutive
films.
#1 films, all over 100 million.
All
domestic,
over 100. Look at that. That is called a track record.
That's a pretty good run. That's a pretty good run.
That is a good run. But it's not just a list. We think of the images, and like everyone could pick a scene from these films, which we've all seen, that you love, that stands out. Just the image of you as an actor becoming all of these different people. I think the story about you is you're a huge star, but also a real fine actor. A real beautiful actor, able to move through all these things. So, how does one become? There was a lot that you had to overcome, even mentally, and in terms of the mythology of what a black man in Hollywood could accomplish based on our Hollywood system, because no one had done this. There's no precedent for it with these numbers. You had some equations, some math that you were doing. Take us through the process of how, the calculations to make this happen.
Well, my manager, James Lassiter, we went to high school together. He's been my manager for 35 years. And
if I could just say it's remarkable because James Lassiter is one of the top executives at our industry, in our industry, and y'all just happen to be high school
High
friends?
school friends, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and that was another one of those, you know, blessings to, you know, looking to the right or left and having a great friend right there. And, you know, JL was Jeff's best friend, and so he was a part of the package deal with Jazzy Jeff.
Wasn't the water in Philly that's
You know, but he's a real thinker, right? So, you know, when I said to him I wanted to be the biggest movie star in the world, he said, okay, well, let's figure out what that means. It was like, okay, well, to be the biggest movie star in the world, you have to make the biggest movies in the world. So then he went and got a list of the top 10 films of all time, and he wanted to see if we could find a pattern. And at the time we were looking and we noticed that 10 out of 10 were special effects films. And 9 out of 10 were special effects films with creatures. And 8 out of 10 were special effects films with creatures and a love story. So when we picked Independence Day and Men in Black, we knew we were in the vicinity of the kinds of movies at the time. And we just wanted to stay in the ballpark. It was a big part of at that time in my career why I was staying in science fiction, because science fiction was the special effects and creatures that tended to end up in the biggest films of all time.
And studying it,
Yeah,
right?
studying,
Like
yeah, and
literally.
studying him. You know, Eddie Murphy was my idol at the time. So I told, and Star Wars was my favorite movie. So I told JL I just wanted to be Eddie Murphy in Star Wars. So just figure out how we can do that. And you know, I remember the weekend that Independence Day came out. And Independence Day, you know, broke all these box office records and all of that stuff, and it was huge. And my phone rings at 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, on that Monday. And I'm like, you know, and I always hate the 3 a.m. phone call. It's like, you know, somebody in jail or in an accident or something. You know, your cousin did something stupid at the club, right? And I hear, hey! And it's Daddy-O. He said, you see these numbers? And I'm like, you know, because it was 3 a.m. in LA, but it was 6 a.m. in Philly, so he had seen on the news already, and he had already got the numbers. Like, no, Dad, it's only 3 a.m. Hey, you ain't see these numbers. It's like, no, Dad, I just, remember I told you that there ain't no such thing as luck. Remember I told you that? I'm like, yeah, Dad, I remember, but remember I told you there ain't no such thing as luck, only what you make. Remember I told you that? Dad, you used to say that all the time. Remember I told you? There ain't no such thing as luck. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Remember I told you that? I said, yeah, Dad, I remember. He said, man, that's a bunch of bullshit. You the luckiest motherfucker I've ever met in my life.
Daddy-O, you really on that one. Yeah. Listen, I just want to read this passage that might be one of my favorite, if that's okay. And ask you about it. I am a dreamer and a builder. I picture grand visions and then I build the systems to make them real in the world. That is my love language. I want to help people I love build extraordinary lives for themselves, but it demands that they be willing to grind and sacrifice, and most importantly, they have to trust me. If they don't, it registers as a complete rejection of my love. The team started referring to themselves as the lifers. They were ride or die. It's impossible to build something that is of a higher quality than the quality of the people around you.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about. I wanted to ask you talk about the superstar and all of the accomplishments, but can you talk about the team? Because I just want to say this real quick. Everybody talking about self-care. People think about massages and spas, and that's relaxation. That's not self-care. Self-care is the place where you stand and what is around you. And he says it in the book, and it's something that I've come to know. So I just want to dig in a little bit. When we tell people who's next to you or who's in bed with you or whatever, what do you mean by that? And not only that, how do you keep them with you? How do you keep people wanting to be loyal, to trust you?
Yeah.
What has been that path for you?
You know, and it's interesting. So that's been a little bit of a double-edged sword that I'm having to work with. You know, Daddy-O was military, and you know, as much as we try to get away from the things that our parents did, most of us wake up one day and we're doing exactly the same stuff that they did. And, you know, I had become that kind of leader. In my mind, it was my job to, you know, push the people around me to become the best versions of themselves. And I am deeply loyal. You know, it's like I got people here, you know, working on the show. Omar Rambert is here. We grew up on the same block. You know, I've known Omar since he was 7 and I was probably 9. And Omar did the music and the design for this show. And Jana Babatunde Bay, there's some Babatunde Bays out there. You know, Jana Babatunde Bay is here, and she was, you know, seating audience at the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air over 30 years ago. And you know, when I commit to people, I commit for life. You know, and it's just the way I get down, but. It comes with a demand that you climb, you know, and there have been people, and it has been some of the most painful breaks in my life when people can't climb anymore, when people lose their willingness to climb, and, you know, when I have to leave, you know, people behind, it's excruciating. You know, but the push to me is my love language. It's like if we're not grinding, if we're not learning, if we're not growing, then we open ourselves up to be destroyed. Right? It's like we must constantly learn, grow, study, evolve. It's like, you know, I think of life as kind of like a down escalator, right? You're trying to climb up and the escalator's going down, right? And if you just stand still, you're going down, right? You gotta keep walking just to stay even, right? And if you want to get to the top, then you gotta really double the speed of that down escalator. You know, the escalator gonna get you eventually. Sooner or later, you're going down, but while we're here, it's really critical that we climb. And, you know, I have real hardcore climbers around me. My team is spectacular. And, you know, you can't get to this position without, you know, really, really great people. Now so that's the one side of it. Now here's the double edge on that sword. So Whip My Hair comes out, and Whip My Hair is as big as a record can be around the world. It is gigantic. It's a top 10 global hit record, and Willow was 9 when it came out, you know, and The Karate Kid with Jaden had come out in June, and then Whip My Hair was in October, and Trey was the star receiver on his high school football team, and I was like, I'm parenting the shit out these kids. You know, I was like, what do I don't do? What do I don't do? You know, and, you know, I was, you know, they were excelling, and it was beautiful, and everybody's winning. And I remember we were in Dublin, Ireland, and Willow had
scored a tour with Justin Bieber. She's on a European tour with Justin Bieber. You know, and it says in the book, you know, never has so much hair been whipped in the Republic of Ireland. You know. And I'm like, I am killing it. It's like, as a parent, I'm killing it. And I remember she comes off, it was like 10 shows in Europe, and then Australia was gonna be next, and then Japan. Willow comes off stage and she runs into my arms. Oh, it was beautiful, Daddy. I was like, yeah, baby, it was so great. You saw the little girls, Daddy? They were all women there. I was like, yeah, baby, it was wonderful. She was like, oh, I'm finished, Daddy. And I was like, oh, I get it, you know, for tonight, baby. Yeah, you're. She's like, no, Daddy, I'm done. And I was like, well, baby, you can't be done. You can't be done because, you know, you promised Mr. Jay-Z that, you know, you were going to support this record. She said, no, Daddy, you promised Mr. Jay-Z. And I was like, babe, we all talked about it, and you know, we all promised, and you know, we'll go home, but then we're looking at Australia and Japan. And she kind of looked, she was a little confused, and she says, it doesn't matter to you that I'm done, Daddy? And I was like, yes, pumpkin sweetie. It matters, but you can't be done. And she was like, okay. So, you know, we went home, and, you know, she goes to her room, and she comes down that next morning, and in the middle of the night, she had shaved her entire head bald. I was like, and I'm thinking to myself, don't nobody want to see you whip your head back and forth, Willow. And I'm looking, and all of a sudden, before I had a chance to react, it hit me. And I got it. And I got shook. I was like terrified, and I looked at her and I was like, got it. I get it. And she was like, thank you, Daddy. And it felt like, I described it in the book, it felt like I had been texting blind, and I stepped off of the curb in front of oncoming traffic at a bus, and she like snatched me back out of the way of the bus, right? And I was about to destroy our relationship, you know? And the question was such a simple question, but it was so powerful, right? It was like, it doesn't matter to you that I'm done, Daddy. And I kind of, you know, deciphered the question, and at the core of the question, she's saying, it doesn't matter to you how I feel? And I had to do some serious soul searching on that question. Does it matter to you how I feel? And the answer really surprised me. Like what I got to, and the real answer was no, right? It's like, I care that you eat. I care that you are safe. I care that you're educated. And feelings are like 7th on my list. And then as I got into it deeper, I realized I don't even care how I feel. So I damn sure don't care how somebody else feels. It's like, to me, feelings, in the way that I was raised, feelings were the enemy. Like, I felt like feelings were the things that would poison my dreams. I didn't feel like running at 5 o'clock in the morning when I'm training for Ali. I didn't feel like getting punched in my face so I could know what that feels like, so I could portray the champ, right? You know, there's a lot of things I don't feel like. And it was a real conundrum, right? And I started noticing feelings everywhere. And as strange as it sounds, in that moment, I kind of discovered feelings. And that's a deep existential question, and it's really the question we're all asking each other all the time. Officer, does it matter to you how I feel? Right? And it's a really singular question. And when the answer is no, cool, fuck you then. Let's fight, right? So I started trying to figure out how can you quest? How can you be ambitious toward a goal and be empathetic and conscious to what the people around you are feeling? And it's very difficult to damn near impossible, but if you're in a relationship with somebody and the bills can't be more important than how they feel, it's like keeping the lights on and, winning in the world. You gotta do it, but if your partner doesn't think you care how they feel, it can't work. And it's so simple, and it's a difficult and painful life circumstance, because the way I was raised was Daddy-O kept the lights on, and Daddy-O made sure we could endure. He made sure we could think. He made sure that we were safe, but he didn't give a damn how I felt. Survival was above how I felt. So, and for most of us, that is the case. The process and the ability of learning how to care how other people feel is the only road to love. It's the only road, and that was a major life turning point for me to gently let go of my agendas and what I wanted and tune in to what the people around me were feeling. And I've turned the corner, and now being more in tune with how people feel, you can better craft the loving help you want to provide. If you only have one way that you help, and that's how I was, that's how my father was, there's one way that you help. And being able to open and tune into what's actually going on inside of people helps you to better craft your assistance. It helps you to better craft your loving kindness.
Wow. There you go. Wow. Well, the chapters of the book are organized here to love with so many beautiful things in the journey. And as we just close, I wonder, as you went through the process of writing the book, you're learning so much about yourself. You get to the end. Do you, sitting here now, going through it all, do you like what you see? And what do you see?
Thank you, baby. She said, marry me, Will. Okay. She's been reading the press. She thinks I can have more wives. That's gonna gonna be the only takeaway from this show.
That's it, there it is.
So, the final chapter is called Love. And, you know, in 2016, Daddy-O was given 6 weeks to live. And I guess it's not that it was a shock, but, you know, it was a shock for her. And we knew he was dying, and he knew. So I started going to see him every week. I was shooting in LA, so I would fly back for the weekend and just see him and, you know, spend a day and a half. And because we knew he was dying, something powerful started to happen between us. Every hello was so rich, and it was such a gift. And he was so happy to see me, and I was so happy to see him. And every goodbye was complete and full and connected, because we both knew very well that this could be the last time. And we had a chance to just talk about everything. And I would say to anybody who has someone in your life that you're not speaking to, and you got something, you know, that you are hanging on to, it's like, just, death is so final, and all of the bullshit got washed away in those final weeks with me and Daddy-O, and you just see how silly some of the things are that you hang on to when somebody's dying, right? And I have read this book, the Tibetan book of living and dying, and in the book, the Sakya Rinpoche talks about when someone's dying, you have to let them know that it's okay. Because if they think you're not going to be okay, sometimes they fight, and it can just be really painful if they're trying to hang on, you know? And I got to say to him, I said, Dad, you know, you did good. Thank you. And, you know, when you're ready to go, you can go. You know, you raised me well, and I'm gonna take care of everybody you love. You know, and he kind of looked. And that was probably week 6. And he had been given 6 weeks, and he ended up living for 3 months. And I remember, like, week 9, I go to see him, and, you know, he's kind of in a bad mood. And he's sitting there, you know, he's frail, and he's, you know, and I go, I'm like, Dad, you know, what's up, man? And he said, you know, you tell motherfuckers you're gonna be dead in 6 weeks. 2 months later, you still hanging around, the shit's embarrassing. You know, we shared a really beautiful laugh, you know. Because about a month later, I was here in LA, and I was shooting downtown. And I was shooting a thing I was shooting Bright, a Netflix thing. And so I'm in the car, and the director comes over, and he knocks on the window, and he says, yo, bro, you got an emergency call. Call your father. And I was like, oh, shit, you know, and even when you're expecting it, you can't be prepared, you know. And, so I go and get my phone and I call him. And I said, yo, Daddy, what's up? And he said, hey man, I think it's tonight. And the books I had read, they said you gotta stay calm, so I was like, all right. And I was like, cool. And I said, you wanna FaceTime? And he said, man, I don't know how to do that shit. And I said, it's cool, I'll FaceTime you. And then my sister had just gotten there. He had called all of my brothers and sisters and said that he thought it was tonight. And, so my sister comes and he says, get your brother on the FaceTime. So we do it. And he's sitting there and I'm looking at him. And we just look at each other. I find a street light and I go stand under the street light because I want him to be able to see me. So we're going and we just look, and 20 minutes. And we're just looking. And my sister says, Dad, you just looking. Don't you have something you want to say to Will? And he's sitting there and I can see him searching. He just wants to one more brick, one more lesson, But he's empty. And the soldier is gone. And, his skin is hanging and I'm looking at him. And for the first time, I could see the same scared little boy inside of him that was inside of me. And, he's just trying to find something. And my sister's like, Dad, you don't have anything? And he's like, shit. Anything I ain't told this motherfucker up till now, he for sure ain't gonna get it from me tonight. We shared a big laugh. We shared a big laugh, so we hung up. And 45 minutes later, Daddy-O was gone. And, it was like, it's like I just learned what love is, you know what I mean? It's like you can't punish people for mistakes, It's like, you have to, nobody's perfect. Everybody's having a hard time and they're trying to figure this shit out the best way that they can. Everybody is just like you. And it might be at different levels and people might do shit that you never would do. But I promise you doing some shit to somebody else that they would never do to you. And it's like, you have to forgive people. And a big part of that, is forgiving yourself, right? And that was the thing, if we don't forgive ourselves for stuff, and it makes it impossible for us to forgive other people, and in that last time with Daddy-O, I just learned what love is. Love is not punishing people and beating on them for what they did and hanging on to that trifling shit, that they did to you. And it's like getting out of being a victim, and Daddy-O and his death purified my heart in a way that I love life. Like, I love the opportunity to be better. I love the opportunity to work with people to find their way, and he helped me cultivate like an emotional invincibility, right? And to love and to be loved is really all there is. And everything else needs to be set up to support that. So, that's what this next phase of my life is going to be. That's what this book is, as I'm beginning to go out into the world with these new ideas and, new concepts, and testing them on the world and testing them in my relationships. And when you see things and you read things in the press and you don't understand exactly what's going on, just know that everybody in my life and everybody on my side and in my team and my wife and my ex and my children, what you're watching is an experiment in unconditional love.
I think you did that.
Yeah, I think that's
I
it.
think you did it. Well done. This is a
man.
brave thing here. Let's give him a round of applause. Stand up. Stand up for Wilson.
Thank you all. Thank you. Ava Duvernay, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Woo. I don't know.